Season 2 of the Strange, Rare, and Peculiar podcast, a place to learn more about homeopathy, deepening your knowledge, expanding your universe of possibility in the world of health and well-being through homeopathy.
Homeo what?
Homeo what?
Good afternoon.
Well, hello.
Good morning and good evening.
And all those things. Did you actually record the thing we were just talking about? What did you press record by then?
No.
So Al said, come closer to the microphone. I said, but I sound louder than you do on the recording. And he just looked at me and I said, do you listen to the podcast? And he said, no, not really. I said, well, I do.
Well, I know what I'm going to say, or at least I know what I've said.
Do you?
I would listen to it if I was unsure about something or needed to go away and
Process.
Yeah. Process.
Yeah. But here we are.
Absolutely. And it's a rainy winter day.
I love it.
It's a rubbish day.
No, it's beautiful. It's not winter. It's autumn. It's the best time of the year. The colors, the light.
All of that.
The sun is bright red in the morning when it rises. Although, of course, you would know nothing about that. Even the stupor you would be in at about that time. But it's absolutely gorgeous.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I take it back. It's a delightful autumnal day.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's been weeks since we got on this horse.
You mean since the last time we recorded? It has been, actually, because we knew we had a really crazy time coming with the conference, with the AIH Faculty of Homeopathy and GIRI conference. And so we sort of front-loaded and recorded an extra podcast. But then, my gosh, it's just been insane. But we have a lot to talk about today.
Well, let's talk about what it's like to be a peeper.
What? First, I thought you said pea pod. You mean a peeper, like a leaf peeper.
A peeper.
A peeper. Mm-hmm.
A leaf peeper.
So you want to talk about the conference?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you associate that with peeping.
Correct.
Right. And for... Gosh. This podcast is absolutely ridiculous. You know, I got this thing on Spotify because I was listening to our podcast, and it says, you might also like... And I thought, oh my gosh. Yeah, and they're not as ridiculous, I'm sure, other podcasts.
Well, they're not as popular.
We've hit some milestones, but I don't really recall the numbers. But it's nice to know.
44 million viewers.
At least. At least.
Sorry, that was Kardashians. I'm sorry.
Oh, my gosh. People probably don't know that you have a Kardashian channel on your news feed.
When I was setting up my news feed,
yeah.
It invited me to, So the first thing is, do I want to know about South African rugby? Yes.
Yes.
Do I want to know about what's going on in the Cricket World Cup? Yes.
Do you want to know about Cardi B?
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Cardi B,
yeah.
Nicki Minaj, and the Kardashians.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for conversation's sake.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway,
but that's not what we're here to talk about.
No, it's not.
Oddly enough.
I want to talk about the delights of Connecticut.
That
Goodness
conference.
Me.
So, for those of you who have not yet heard about the conference that happened...
I'm not talking about the conference. I'm talking about getting there. Because it was unbelievably easy on the eye.
Well, for you were the passenger. I was driving, and it was a torrential downpour.
It's irrelevant.
And the lady in the phone took us an hour out of our way.
Also irrelevant.
Right.
But the leaves were extraordinary. I don't know what makes a good leaf season or the exact time.
Right.
But I tell you what, it was something. Connecticut and Massachusetts, all of that New England stuff.
Yeah. Delivers.
I'm a big fan.
Oh my gosh, I
love it. I
love
would
it.
live there though.
Really, I would. I loved living there.
Really?
I would in a heartbeat.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's go.
I mean, we have to put it on the list because there are all these other places on my list. Okay.
Let's talk about the conference.
Did I just mess that up?
No.
Okay. The conference. So for those of you who might not have heard about this conference, which by the time this podcast goes up, it will have been a couple of weeks in the rearview mirror, but it will be a long time before information about it becomes old or tired or irrelevant, because it was pretty incredible. And I think a huge shout out goes to Peter Gold. Peter Gold from the AIH, who got an honorary membership awarded to him. Remember at the dinner? That was lovely. But he had some contacts at UConn. So the conference took place at UConn Medical, at the University of Connecticut Medical Facility. So the whole campus with the school, the hospital, and so on and so forth in their auditorium, which Peter's capacity to get us in there was, it was really meaningful for homeopathy to sort of be recognized and welcomed into that space.
I have to agree, and it reminds me of just the difference between attending or even speaking at a congress or a conference in a town hall, or a
hotel conference
room, or for me, the hospital in Mumbai, or the University of Connecticut. I thought, over the years, there's just some venues, and
same, like getting to teach at the Royal London Homeopathic Hospital.
Correct.
I did that dance every time I walked in and saw there's an inset when you walk in the Great Ormond Street entrance. There's a tile. It's a tile floor. An inset is the crest, and it says Royal London Homeopathic Hospital. And I would literally do this little dance each time I entered,
Nice.
and I thought, I'm on security video. Like, I'm sure they've got it on a loop, and here she comes again. I did it. I'd walk out and walk back in and do it again.
Yeah. So, however that landed, or however Peter was able to, land that venue was really special. And it's funny because who cares where a conference is?
But it matters.
But it matters.
It really totally matters. And there were so many things that mattered. And like yesterday, we had a meeting, one of the homeopathy advocacy meetings, and Peter was talking about sort of the secondary effects, the downstream effects of having that conference in a medical institution, and how it gave us credibility. It was sponsored by UConn, and and that meant that other medical folks were intrigued to come. And one of the things that Peter talked about yesterday was how, using as an example, how medical doctors are realizing that antibiotic resistance is no joke. And these docs who are seeing, kids in the ER, and they're dying because they are no longer responding to antibiotics for what would have otherwise been considered a simple infection, are now willing to bypass any sort of perceived bias, or perceived, ineffectuality of homeopathy because they're healers and they care and they want to help people. Anyway, so that was a big deal. And then, of course, no conference is possible without the people who make all the details work. And Molly Punzo, our dear, dear friend, Molly, oh my gosh, watching her run around with her phone, making every detail happen. And then, of course, Lisa Amarine, who was running the tech and doing all her Lisa things. It's amazing. And those people who are friends and who are incredible in this homeopathy world. So I
was also I had a little moment where at the very beginning I thought to myself, oh, this is a truly joint conference, and because Dr. Gary Smythe, representing the faculty.
Faculty of Homeopathy being the British Medical Homeopathy Organization. Oh, look, I'm back to doing your definitions for you. You're welcome. Yeah.
And so it was, he spoke, just as an introductory conversation, he spoke so well. And I said to him afterwards, I just said, the last time I heard a speech like that was Peter Fisher.
Yeah.
And I really...
Define who Peter Fisher? The late Peter Fisher.
The late Peter Fisher, who was many, many things, but worked right in that front office at the London... at the Integrative Medical Centre, which it is now.
Sure did. He was also homeopath to the Queen.
Yeah, totally. But I've totally forgotten the name change. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The Integrative Medicine Hospital, the same venue as the Royal London Homeopathic Hospital. And But Peter was a genius at those kinds of introductory, high level.
Yep.
Pitch it just right.
Inspiration and education.
He could do it for 20 minutes. He could do it for 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. And anyway, I really enjoyed Gary's introduction. But, representing a part of the joint.
Right.
And the joint was the Faculty of Homeopathy. And then Dr. Alex Bakker did the same thing.
Right. He's the president of the AIH.
Yeah, absolutely. So current president of the AIH just spoke really beautifully. And then I was going to say it was Leonie Bonneman, but of course it wasn't. The head of GIRI, the current head of GIRI. And she spoke really beautifully as well.
Absolutely, absolutely lovely. Wait, can we just go back for 1 second to say about Gary Smythe? The sun always shines when he's around. If he's not the nicest person that I've ever met, what is it about him?
Oh, he's Irish.
Maybe it's just that. I absolutely adore him. He's just so... He's such a good guy. Mm. Yeah.
Totally, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got the heads of 3 organisations saying, look, we're coming here to have a chat, to get together and push this forward. Now, I was so surprised by that because I've spent some time with the folks that have previously run GIRI or GIRI, and I don't know what the correct
I hear it said both ways. If somebody wants to weigh in if there is the right way.
Anyway.
Let's each do one.
But it's the organisation that's been around for 50,000 years. No, it's been around for a long time, way before HRI, and who have been having short, crisp, scientific discussions, mainly about mechanism of action, fundamental and basic research in homeopathy. And so I was kind of I have to say I was a bit sort of what's the word, hesitant, not hesitant, but just do we really need to go? It's going to be a whole lot of nanoparticles and stuff, quantum coherence domains and whatever that is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then then it turned out that there's a clinical stream. And then it turned out, there's actually, and now submit, an abstract. And then finally I was looking at the program and thinking, but this is really good. This is actually a really good representation of what's going on in homeopathy research or research related to homeopathy, because there's a whole lot of things always get missed out. First is veterinary science, which is different from laboratory research on laboratory animals.
Right.
Okay, so it's important to distinguish those two because sometimes the GIRI conference, from my perspective, can be a little bit rats and mice, and doing things to laboratory animals. Which
there were marine creatures and there were other, monkeys and so forth,
But then there was soil health.
That was the most amazing thing.
And water health.
So can we...
Oh, my God. Hang on. Let me just finish my bit. Because for the first time, I saw a research conference that mostly covered all bases.
Yeah.
And I think the one base that wasn't covered is actually what we do. And that is the professional practice of homeopathy and research into what's going on in the professional realm.
Right.
So I think there was agro-homeopathy, vet homeopathy, basic science and fundamental research, clinical research, and I'm missing one, and I can't remember what it is. But at the end of the day, I thought, wow, this is fabulous.
It was so good. And I think, just to back up what you were describing, so the conference, it was a 3-day conference, and kind of to round out Al's overview, the thing about it that was so striking, well, what was the actual name of it? It had something to do with global health. Sorry, I should be more prepared with the formal name, but it had to do with global health. And I think what really struck me is, looking at that banner that was up behind the podium, and seeing that, and seeing the signs in the hallways at the medical center, and realizing that homeopathy and global health make so much sense together, and that there are ways in which the homeopathic preparation of substances can make critical differences in the health of the planet, which then affects all of us.
Yes.
that was, it was like, it was profound to see. And
that's the jaw-dropping moment for me as well.
Yeah.
Because it's always about, okay, there's this, let's hear about the expert talk about homeopathy and the treatment of, autoimmune conditions or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's great to know that there's a solution for some chronic healthcare problems in individuals and in public health. But then I was going exactly like you. Then my jaw dropped because I'm going, and it's not that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But water quality
can be affected by.
Well, water quality affects the chronic health of adults, as does the soil quality from where our food comes from.
Right.
And suddenly there's a big fat link between the environment, public health, individual health, animal health.
Yep.
And the rest that I'm missing.
It was so that it was like it was so good.
Ding dong.
It was so amazing. And so nested within this, so there were a number of presentations that were really remarkable. Even, some of the scientific jargon was a little over my head. Some of the mechanism of action stuff just definitely.
Some of those big words.
However, what was so beautiful about this conference was, even if you weren't a physicist or a memory of water researcher or, a lab tech, a person who is, who has experience in working in a lab and, creating these experiments, each presentation still had a take-home message that you understood the relevance of it.
And it all linked to that one thing.
It all linked. And,
do you think that was by design or a total accident?
There are no accidents.
Right.
I think it was pretty amazing. So, and then what happened was Ron Whitmont spoke about the microbiome. And, I've heard Ron talk about this a couple of times. I always love hearing about it because it's a fascinating topic and I always learn something. But this time it hit in a completely different way because the context. Because when he was talking about the microbiome of individual humans and sort of the net effect of, antibiotic use and so on and so forth, and it's, the effects then into chronic disease and so forth. You realize that the one and the all are the same, and this idea that homeopathy has answers so far beyond just treating a cold or whatever, it's profound. Mm-hmm. And I had been thinking, and I think I kind of whispered this to you during a presentation, I had this moment of curiosity because the GIRI or GIRI folks, they talk about high dilution research.
Ultra high dilution. Not homeopathy, not dilution and succussion, not dynamization and so forth. And at first I thought, that's a way to sort of remove the word homeopathy from things. And then I realized it's not. Mm-mm. It's because, first of all, it's the non-homeopathic application of ultra-high dilutions.
Exactly. It's not all homeopathic in the very strict applied similarity sense of the word.
Yeah.
And that, I think it's sort of important. It's so important. It also is something for us to think about in how we go forward. Any AHE students who are listening would be like, she's going to start talking about how specifics of language are really important. But I think, getting really clear about the idea of ultra high dilutions, but also the homeopathic application of substances as first cousins, but not the same thing.
Totally.
Right? Because it does something really important, which is it validates the medicines which we need, and the way that especially the Brazilians
answers a question about that shouldn't happen.
Yes.
Right. It answers when you've got a field of cows with diarrhea and they're getting either a combination product or one product for the whole herd of cows, and there's a biological measurable change. That doesn't say homeopathy is effective.
That's right.
What that says is there's something in this water.
Yeah.
Right? And in the same way that in a laboratory situation, which is, I don't know if I agree with this kind of research from just an animal protection perspective, but, if you create a whole lot of stresses like light and noise, for example, and then you give a third of the lab mice coffea, they'll sleep better.
Yeah.
They'll recover better than the others. And that doesn't say anything about homeopathy, actually.
Mm-mm.
No, that's an intervention, which is an ultra-high dilution one.
Yeah.
Getting a biological response that should not happen using conventional physics and chemistry.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And so what came to my mind after the conference was, first of all, that my current favorite quote, Oscar Wilde, Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo, there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come.
Don't be mixing up.
I mean, please.
Those two.
Yeah.
Well, they're probably in the same cemetery, though.
Oh, they
Oscar
probably
Wilde's
are.
in Père Lachaise.
Yeah.
Mm.
So this idea that maybe it's our time.
Yeah.
Right? And given how much time I've spent studying when homeopathy went down in flames, at the turn of the 20th century, well, just before that, I've been thinking about how, like we said before, there are no accidents, right? That had to happen because it wasn't our time. It needed to be birthed then. It needed to happen then. But this idea that it happened and then science had to go in a particular direction. And then, because there were some discoveries that are very, very important, and some aspects of the institutionalization of medicine were very important. And, as I learned, the homeopaths were well caught up in all of that. But at the end of the day, our kind of incapacity to understand what we do left us behind. The bioreductionistic sciences took off, but now they've hit their end. Not in every way, obviously, but there are some of the major discoveries from that time period have now reached their limit. Antibiotics, for example, right? And the bioreductionistic etiological basis of disease is, it's really funny that that's become all the rage in homeopathy right now. Oh, just give the nosode. It's just bioreductionism.
Oh my goodness, that's so interesting. At a time when, in conventional, germ theorists are now realizing, oh, that's what you meant by the microbiome, and we now need to start adapting our own mechanism.
But now some of
homeopathy is divided.
Yeah.
With the use of an old, outdated.
Exactly.
Scientific model.
It's ridiculous.
That's so interesting.
Wait, you didn't think...
Well, I never thought about it like that. Now, give me a chance, because I'm a slow processor.
I'm really sorry. I think it's... In my mind, it's clear, and I suppose I haven't really said it overtly. I mean...
you just said it to me differently, because, it's always been astonishing to me that people that are indiscriminately using same... So nosodes, this for that, or isopathic options.
Or the detoxification principle, we've got to give you the tautopathic intervention to neutralize or clear is the word that they often use, whatever this, perceived block is.
So I'm only recently realizing that, because I honestly, whether naive or not, I've always perceived that all remedies are the same, and if it's a nosode, it doesn't really matter. It's about, how you apply it. But what you're saying is that the sort of indiscriminate, or I would say lazy use of those interventions is based on an outdated model of science.
Yeah.
That actually homeopaths let go a very long time ago.
Yeah. And
now science, modern reductionistic, everyday mom and pop science is letting go of.
Yes, and yet there are homeopaths who are holding on to it.
Got it. Interesting.
And pushing it forward, which not only it just has never made sense. And of course, if every time you look into one of the corners of something like this, you realize that there are issues. So if we can I take a tiny cul-de-sac?
We're miles away from the GIRI conference, though. Just letting you know.
And we're miles away from what we were going to talk about, which is totality, leading to Benninghausen, leading to next week's. But that's okay.
So anyway, folks, hang in there.
Just a slight cul-de-sac. Well, the cul-de-sac is that not only have a lot of homeopaths decided that the biological basis or etiological recognition of disease, of a bioreductionistic disease product, Staphylococcus, whatever, streptococcus, that they need to give the isopathic intervention for it. Okay, so if we stop there, we know Hahnemann said to Herring, unfortunately, it was published after they were both long gone, in, the footnote to Aphorism 56 about attempting to clear a disease or to eradicate a disease using the product of the same name, isopathy, nothing but calamity will result.
Yeah, I think he does.
He uses the word calamity for sure, yeah. So I paraphrased everything but the word calamity there. So there's that. But then there's also, some of the stuff that I found out in researching the origins of many of these remedies for my thesis, and that was Swan, right? So Samuel Swan, who was a student of Herring and Lippy, if I remember correctly, he started in the college the year that the fighting began. I think it was the last year that Herring and Lippy were together in the college. But Swan went forward, and he's the father of many nosodes. And the thing is that when it comes to biological products, he said, well, we don't need, he talks about the proving, but what he means when he says proving is...
He means clinical
data. He says, we don't need to actually do a proving because it's going to be really hard on people. Therefore, we don't need it because we have so much data on we have so much clinical data, therefore, and just makes assumptions, which, it's fine. And we do get a lot of good information from clinical experience. However, Hahnemann wouldn't put as much emphasis on aphorism 153, right? The most characteristic symptom, which... of course, we call the stranger and peculiar, but you lose that. Aphorism 20, right? The importance of approving. You cannot, by intellectual ideation alone, understand the extent of what a remedy can do. And so I think, in a way, this focus, right, on the biological basis of disease and using an isopathic intervention to, quote unquote, clear that pattern, it has a lot of holes, not the least of which is the remedy itself.
I'd mostly agree with you, because I mostly agree with you on all things. But
my tea almost came out my nose.
No, that was going to be awkward.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
She spat into the microphone.
Oh, out of her nose.
But what I meant was, or what I mean was, except for the statistics, because, many of us, and so here's an example. Clients got mononucleosis.
Yeah.
Right? Or a history of carcinosin has been traditionally, traditionally, one of the remedies you think about in cases like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, there's no other information around that clinical decision other than statistics, and good stories. In the same way that Cryptococcus is used, or maybe cytomegalovirus, is used in some named conditions successfully.
Well, no, but nosodes work. You'd have to pry metaurinum out of my cold, tight fist. How many times we use that remedy successfully for, kids who have...
But are you saying but the metaurinum, in the metaurinum example that you're just giving, is usually based on our understanding a portrait of metaurinum. Mm-hmm.
No,
but it's not... the provings of most of the nosodes are pretty poor. Yeah. Let's just say, I'm generalizing.
Yeah.
And so that clinical data or statistical data is still relevant.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But it's, my interest is in the intellectual origins of homeopathy. And so the more we understand about what we're doing, the better the choices we can make. Because, and this was just to be, he's got his Hahnemann pipe in his mouth now. This was just to be a little cul-de-sac into Swan and just sort of, we're making decisions that are not based on full information. Doesn't mean that they can't, work sometimes, right? But we also don't understand long-term implications. And I think that we have a responsibility for that. I was about to get into some case examples, but I won't. But these are some examples that I will be using when I talk at the Florida conference.
Being a peeper.
Yeah.
In Connecticut.
Okay, back to Connecticut.
All right, back to Connecticut.
We should have a bragging moment.
What?
We were asked to present on Home Foundation, Home Office of Research, and they gave awards for the best presentation in each of the categories, and we got the award for best presentation in the human clinical.
Best in show.
In the human clinic. I didn't even know there were going to be awards. It was so sweet.
It's a classic scientific conference.
Yeah, it was 100% unexpected.
15-minute talks.
Yeah.
And it's classic scientific conference because everyone goes over time, so it's chaotic.
Right.
And that goes without saying. And the other thing that I'd say about a classic scientific conference is there was lots of robust disagreement, which is good to hear and pretty respectful. No, you're wrong. And
some might argue about.
Well, no, I mean it's the way in which you go about it. But I mean, as I understand it, in the world of conventional science, it's pretty normal to disagree robustly.
And one of my favorite people in the homeopathy research community nailed a good response. None other than the most amazing Iris Bell.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I need a little Iris Bell painting in my office.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And then we got a prize. We got a gong.
It was so exciting.
It really was. And
I think my surprise was kind of like me saying to Al, I don't know about this. Are you sure? Is this good enough?
I said, trust me.
Trust me, Herb.
Trust me, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you were right.
Yeah, I was in that regard.
But this really speaks to, there is a necessity that we sort of move in this direction of scientific, and the word science now is so loaded, but, integrity in what we do. And we hope, and actually one of the things I wanted to just touch on was when we were at the conference and we got to share a table with the AIH, that felt really, really nice to have Home Foundation and AIH at the same table, and Academy for Homeopathy Education. It was pretty awesome. Just being respected by people that you respect is I don't know, nothing better.
It's amazing.
It is amazing, actually. But what we realized was that, and what I've said to you for a long time, that there is a way in which we need to try and break through in research with ways that all homeopaths can participate. And that is, at the end of the day, what our research office is so focused on is creating pathways for participation by all homeopaths and getting students on board to understand research so that they can participate. You just mentioned quickly the meeting that you had this morning.
I got an email out of the blue. Ashley Corey.
One of our
shout out
graduates.
Ashley.
Yeah.
And she just said it's my first week of practice, or my second. I think she said it's my second week of practice. And I think she might have the...
I think she's taking the exam next week,
Yeah, so shout out to those students that are taking their examination. But Ashley said, I'm starting from the beginning and I want to start right.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my God, I cannot tell you.
Well, she wants to start right with practice-based research.
Well, sorry. And I was just thinking to myself as she said that, if only I knew,
Totally.
And I said that to her. I said, hats off to you, because she wanted to collect... and it was so smart the way in which she put it. She says, I don't want to spend all of my life. I've got my kids and life and all the rest of it, but I just want to make sure that I'm collecting demographic data. Mm-hmm. So we talked about intake forms. Mm-hmm. She's got a software package where that's being collected and out it comes. She's going to have her immaculate case notes from which she can trawl, different questions that she's got. And then, of course, she's going to be tracking remedies, potencies, administration. And then, of course, there's an outcome. And so we talked about the relevance of Mike, or we looked at others. And we looked at the SF36 outcome measure, which we both agreed is really probably inappropriate for each consultation, but really good after a year.
Right.
And actually, I had a couple of thoughts about our own research office, because... Wow. Imagine, building up because the SF36 is way more in depth. I think it's 36 questions.
Yeah.
That's why it's 36.
Yeah.
All right. So it's 36 questions about health and in far more depth than my core. But, it was just, it was really, really heartening and good to hear. And so, that's our focus. We want to get everybody involved. The one thing that I remember about the conference was that people still don't know what we do.
100%. That's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about. It was, for example, we were talking about Gary Smythe, nicest person on the planet. And he said, at the end of it, he goes, wait a second. You mean practitioners can actually participate on the helpline, or we can send clients to the Homeopathy Help Network? It was quite a surprise. So I thought, as we wrap up, I want to just kind of explain to everybody what we do, and that will help you to understand how you can be a part of what we do, because there is a place for everyone. That's what Home is about, right? Home Foundation. But also just to acknowledge how long it takes to break through. We spend, anybody who sees we're on social media with the podcast, all the free webinars that we do, all the talks, all the conferences, and still fighting to get people to understand what we do. I mean, just as an example, Home Foundation still has not been accepted into HAA, which is the Homeopathic Advocacy Association, something like that. It's the not-for-profits in support of homeopathy. The only criteria is you have to be a not-for-profit for 2 years. So we started our 501c3 in 2015. I've been asking since 2017 for us to be admitted. And for whatever reason, we don't get the vote. And I chair that group on behalf of the NCH. So I know that I've said what we do, and I say that only because I think it's hard for people to understand what organizations do. So if you've listened this long, we'd love to just sort of say what we do, and it's an appeal for help. Please spread the word, because we are a not-for-profit. There is some misconception out there that we are some conglomerate. It's, we are operating on a shoestring. We need donations. We're going to have a capital campaign starting. Giving Tuesday. I mean, we just, we are literally operating on a shoestring, and it's hard, but we love it. So we need people to understand what we do. So Home Foundation is a 501c3. As I said, we started in 2015, and we have 4 goals, but 2 of them that are really, really important. One is to provide access to high quality homeopathy services, and to provide it, to make that accessible, and accessibility being low cost. And that's where HHN, the Homeopathy Help Network, has come from. So anyone can send clients to Homeopathy Help Now. It's homeopathyhelpnow.com. Consults are $40 for an acute with as much follow-up that's needed. If people need financial assistance, we provide it. We're an educational institution, so we're teaching practitioners how to provide the most high-quality care. So every case that comes through is supervised. Also, every case that comes through Homeopathy Help Now or the Academy of Homeopathy Education teaching clinic, so chronic cases that come through there, or chronic cases that go to students in supervision. All of that, from every case, data is collected that feeds into our research office. So the second main thing that we do is we conduct outcomes-based homeopathy research. We also conduct historical research and educational research. So our foundation, the Home Foundation, has its own Office of Research. Now, somebody said to me yesterday, well, there's HRI and there's GIRI. And there are other organizations. There isn't another American organization that is both conducting research and not those other 2 organizations are not focused on clinical outcomes research or historical or.
Well, GIRI or GIRI is an association that you become a member of.
Exactly. Yeah. So
HRI talks about research and doesn't really
Alex's research, but
and there are people surrounding the organisation of HRI that are conducting research, but HRI is not really doing any.
Exactly. Now, those are both amazing institutions, and we support them and their work, but we're different. So we need people to understand that what we are doing is we're actually conducting the research and publishing the research, and lots of it. And the other thing that is a really important focus and mandate for us is being inclusionary. The homeopathy community sometimes gets siloed, and we are working really hard to get beyond those silos, not just in education, but to practitioners, however they practice, because we have been able to devise ways with our practitioner-generated research network that any practitioner of homeopathy can participate in. We're creating a universal health inventory form. We've got a coding frame that's been built so that people can submit their health inventory forms, and we can extract the information that we need for our public health and epidemiological aspects of our information. And anyone can join that. So if you go to homefoundation.org, you can get to the page that just click through to the PGRN. You can get there from the homepage, and you can sign on. And very soon, probably just after the first of the year, will be the beginning of participation. But, by all means, get involved now. So those are the two main things that we do. So how can you help? Send people to Homeopathy Help Now. We really struggle. We get taken down on social media. It's unbelievable. Someone confused us with a for-profit initiative a couple of weeks ago, trashed us high and low, and then apologized, but it's too late. That information is out there. That really hurts us.
Just say that slower and differently, because as you've been talking about this, you mentioned lots of acronyms and names. Like
okay.
Home Foundation.
Yep.
Then you talked about the PGRN. Then you talked about HHN.
Okay.
All right.
So HHN.
And this story, and then the story, because it's a really important one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean tell the story again about what happened?
Well, say it exactly the same way. But it just occurred to me that because I'm following you, but we do talk about the practitioner-generated research network,
right? And
how does that fit in?
Got it.
To all of the rest of what we do.
Yeah. So So Homeopathy Help Now is a telehealth service for both acute and chronic care.
Perfect.
And if you're a practitioner and you're busy and you can't handle your acutes, by all means, send them through to HHN. We'll take care of them and send them right back to you. Or if you want to be a part of HHN, we have externships so that practitioners can be a part of it. We have a number of practitioners from all around the country who are participating, who were not formerly associated with the Academy of Homeopathy Education. So anyone can participate. If you have learned homeopathy but maybe had a program that didn't really focus on acute care, or you just didn't get experience treating acutes, which I think was the reality for everyone until now that we've got this telehealth service. So, you can send people to us. If you're a practitioner, you can send your acutes, or you can participate. All of that is available. And again, we are a not-for-profit. There is some misinformation being spread that this is a for-profit institution, that people are making money. Trust me, we are not.
Well, that was at the heart of that.
Yeah, so people are saying things on social media that it's lining the owners' pockets. There are no owners. We have a board of directors. We're a charity. We're a 501c3. So this is here to support the community. The second thing is the Practitioner-Generated Research Network, PGRN, is and it is a part of Home Foundation. It is a part of our research initiative. And what it is we've created a place for all homeopaths to be able to easily participate in research, whether they participate by actually doing the outcome surveys with their clients, which many people will do, or just when we have our universal health inventory form, it's literally a hands-off way to participate. And what it's going to do is help us to break through one of the biggest challenges that we have in clinical research in homeopathy, which is numbers. So the more data we have, the more bomb-proof our reports on what we've done becomes. So we really need people to participate. we're really an open group. It's an amazing group of volunteers and a really small staff of dedicated research folks who, again, contrary to what we've been hearing, are not like giant earners in this. It's, I don't know, there's a misperception. We need you to help us to break through that. We just heard again, somebody said that we are some conglomerate buying up schools. Not true. No. Oh my gosh, so far from the truth. We grant scholarships to so many people. We're basically giving away a lot of education because, the mandate of our charity is to get as many people educated in the best way that we can. So if there's a way that any of you who care about the work that we're doing could help us, we would really, really appreciate it. If you need to talk to us about it, please reach out. We love being involved in the conversations around homeopathy. And if you or someone has the ability to donate to support homeopathy research, we can talk to you about the list of projects that we have going on and how you can be a part of that. One of the things that we were just talking about in a recent meeting was we're outgrowing some of the systems that we have set up to be able to run some of the programs we have. And we have a big program that's going to launch after the first of the year, and that's Homeopathy Help Now's Comfort Care, which is the first of its kind in homeopathy. It's a very organized telehealth clinic, provision of clinical services and research initiative focused on palliative and end-of-life care. So really working to bring homeopathy into the hospice movement and to be able to collect data about how homeopathy can provide comfort in the final stages of people's time here. And so as we gear up for that, we're having to really create some systems to be able to train people to create all of the infrastructure necessary, a lot of legal fees around making sure that all the forms are there. For example, we're creating some information to help people have an advance directive for the inclusion of homeopathy in their wishes for their end-of-life care. How do you establish a proxy in the integrative medical world? There aren't guidelines. No one's done this before. Creating a whole new research paradigm. The outcomes measures that are used for quality of life are different for quality of death. Also providing care for caregivers. So this is a really big initiative that we need help with. So if you can provide financial support, that would be amazing. If you can provide any kind of volunteer support, you can go to the homeopathy the Home Foundation, HOHM Foundation.org, and you can sign on there. But also moral support. Light a candle, include us in your thoughts. That's good too, because, changing paradigms takes a lot.
Well, in amongst that particular initiative, there's also a whole lot of others as well.
Holy macaroni.
But we're not going to talk about that now.
We're not. And we didn't get to talk about the other thing that was on. I have my organ on open to aphorism 7.
Well, let's talk about that another time.
Yeah, next week. We've got a couple things that are upcoming on the podcast. Some really cool subjects that are a little more academic, kind of filling in with some academic material. We're going to talk about Benninghausen, his method of prescribing, just do a little deep dive in someone who's having quite a resurgence, which is fun. And also talking about the importance of understanding the totality of symptoms in the clinical setting and sort of the fungibility of totality and how that informs practice. So those are two of the podcasts that we have lined up.
The fungibility.
And then shortly after this gets posted, we will be in Minnesota speaking at the Minnesota Homeopathic Association conference. I'm really excited for that.
Minneapolis, huh?
Minneapolis, one of my favorite places.
I'm with Prince.
I love Prince. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
That's it, folks. Take care. See you next time.
Mm-hmm.
The Academy of Homeopathy Education offers clinical training that far exceeds the requirements put forth by the Council of Homeopathic Certification and ACHINA. Unlike other programs that give credit for paper or pre-recorded video cases, AHE has built a thriving telehealth clinic with clients of all ages and from all walks of life to give a diverse clinical experience that addresses the most prevalent 21st century health challenges. Standalone clinical training packages are available for qualified practitioners. Learn more at ahe.online.